But before we start, we always start with a prayer, and I'm going to have the Honorable Reverend from Pine Tops, New Jersey, Rabbi Stephen Walter, come do the invocation.
North Carolina. Good morning. You bow your heads. Dear God, thank you for allowing us to gather together once again, to see old friends and to meet new ones. Thank you for this group, for the opportunity we have to share ideas and to celebrate success and discuss ways to improve our businesses. We ask that you bless this meeting today, that we all could gain wisdom and insight that will allow us to return to our businesses renewed and reinvigorated for the coming year. We also ask that you would bless everyone with safe travel at the conclusion of this meeting as they return to their homes and their families. Amen.
Thank you, Stephen. We have some guests that have come from very, very far. We have, I just want to announce some of the far distances. We have friends from Guatemala here. We have our friends from Mexico here. We have new friends from Taiwan and Vietnam here. Am I missing anybody? Well, he's not really our friend, but we have our licensee from Australia here. And we also have a guest from Turkey here. So we're representing all corners of the planet. And we appreciate everybody coming here. You know, Princeton is a city, it is a town, actually. It's rich in history, rich in revolutionary history. It's these grounds that this property is on, these woods, where some very, very famous Revolutionary War battles were fought here. Princeton itself was home to some very famous American heroes, like Alexander Hamilton lived here. Also about maybe 5 miles south of this property, a rather famous guy named George Washington did a rather famous midnight crossing on the day after Christmas and was the turning point of the Revolutionary War, where he surprised the British troops as he crossed the Delaware. The other thing about Princeton that's kind of cool historically, it's the site of the first intercollegiate football game. I think it was, I wrote this down, 1869. The first football game ever played intercollegiately was between Princeton, University of Princeton, and my alma mater, Rutgers. There's a big diversity there in intellectual firepower between Rutgers and Princeton. They're both fine schools, but Princeton is an iconic brand in the education field. The first football game, 1896, Rutgers won the game 6-4. The game was played more like rugby in those days. It really wasn't football as we know it. American football had yet to be invented. The last game was in 1980, and Rutgers won that game 44-13. You would think Rutgers was kicking the hell out of them all these years. Actually, Princeton holds the advantage, something like 57-42 in the overall ranking. When I was in college, Rutgers was just starting to gear up their program to be a bigger athletic program, and they would really annihilate Princeton every year. It was never, they were out of their weight class by that time. And I was the editor of the paper, and I always remember this still stings 40 years later, but I had written an editorial after the last game, this one game. It was 1976, I think. And I made fun of them. I said, they're not in our class. We shouldn't even be playing these losers. It's not even a football game anymore. It's a scrimmage. And their editor, the editor of the Princetonian, he wrote in his editorial as a response to me, he can laugh now, but in 4 years he'll be working for us. I still remember that. Touche, editor of Princetonian. That still bothers me. Anyway. We have a great meeting planned. We have a great meeting on tap, I should say, here. Susan Mathis has really been, she's the impresario of this meeting, so if it really stinks, it's her fault. She's planned a very fun activity immediately after the meeting. We have a nice dinner in town tonight. Everybody, you know, we're going off in groups, and Susan has arranged for that. And then tomorrow morning, we have a breakfast send-off. So we plan on spending the next 24 hours and having some fun. We have a good thing planned here. So we're excited about it. And maybe I should announce now, but we also have next year's meeting set, ready to go. We're going to go last week in October to Austin, Texas at the Fairmount Hotel. So Susan will have a mark your calendar or save the date for you, and that's where we're doing it next year. So is this actually going to work? Yeah, I'm ready to go to my slides at least. Oh, we're not going to do that yet. Okay, well, okay, let's do that first then, okay. We usually do a year in review, and this is the last year of what we've spent doing for the last 12 months, and we put this into one video as a review. Busy year. That's right. Susan, would you mind coming up here and introducing, we'll get the show on the road and we'll introduce our first guest speaker. We're going to kick off really strong. We have a great program for you today. We come out of the box with a real neat speaker. We just found out our daughters live in the same building in Philadelphia. So we'll probably be seeing each other.
They'll never be friends.
Susan.
Before we get started, I just wanted to do one quick shout out because Jerry's always kind enough to say I put this all together, but obviously I can't do that myself. So Eileen, Lisa, Cindy, everyone at our team has been truly instrumental. So if you could give them a round of applause. So we had the benefit of having a great recommendation from Dave Perry on our opening speaker. He has previously spoken, I believe, at the Leadership Conference for Furniture Today. You'll be hearing a lot of things today about challenges, trends, as well as opportunities. Gene Marks, for the past 12 years, has written on startups, the economy, public policy, technology, and workplace issues for the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, Forbes, Inc., Fox Business. He's a certified public accountant, a former senior manager at KPMG, and he's run since 1994 a successful 10-person financial and technology management consulting company near Philadelphia. He speaks regularly to groups like this and nationally on trends that are affecting everybody in every realm of their business. He's appeared on Fox News, MSNBC, and he's also the author of 6 best-selling books. So with that, please meet Gene Marks.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to stay down here. Thanks very much. Hey guys, good morning. Thank you for having me out. Welcome to lovely Princeton, New Jersey. Susan told me I can go until about noon. Is that okay? So we'll just keep it. I don't know if you guys had anything scheduled this morning or not. Well, I'm glad you're here. We have a lot to talk about in the hour that I have. I promise we'll stick to what the schedule is. These are topics and things that I'd like to share with you guys as fellow business owners. As I walk around, as I look at you guys, you know, and I've gotten to know some of you guys as well. I know that many of you guys run your own companies or senior managers in your companies or your business owners as well. I know a few of you, in fact, many of you have been around for a number of years. You might have family businesses as well. You've passed this through generations. I know wherever you live as well. I'm sure you see other businesses that have also been around for a number of years. It's like I see this all the time. Like I go around in my city. I live in Philly, and I see companies that have just been around for decades. You know, that I've been since a kid, you know, growing up there, I've known that these companies have been there and successful. And now that I write about business and I do a lot of work with a lot of small and medium-sized business owners, I always ask myself, what is it about these successful people that have been around for years and years? You know, what do these guys have? What is in their coffee? How is it possible that they are still running their businesses through good times, through bad times, through competition overseas, through different presidential administrations, through recessions, through downturns, and yet they're still here. And not only are they still here, but they're still growing their businesses. And I've been thinking about that a lot over the past few years. And I've actually come down to a few main reasons. One big reason why those people are still around, and why people are still growing and why they're still successful. Now, for most of you that have met people that know, successful business people and leaders, most of them have certain things in common. They're good with people, they're hardworking, right? They get up early. It got to be good in math, kind of helps to run a business, to buy something for $1 and sell it for $3. But the people that I know that have been around the longest, that have been the most successful, are all doing this. They are all looking ahead. Whenever I talk to anyone like that today, it's 2018 right now. Nobody is thinking about 2018 anymore. In fact, a lot of them are barely thinking about 2019. The smartest people that I meet, men and women that are running these companies, their minds are like on 2020 and 2021. They are looking at all the things that's going on around us right now, in politically, the economy, technology. They are making decisions now because they know it's going to affect their companies over the next 2, 3, 4 years. I'm telling you, that's what the smartest people are doing right now. And that's exactly why you guys are here today. You have left your businesses, you've picked your bodies up and moved to Princeton to listen to people talk to you so that you can go back and bring this knowledge to your own businesses. And why? Because you have got people that are depending on you to make these decisions and hoping that you don't screw it up. You have got customers, you've got partners, you've got vendors, you've got suppliers, your employees, and all the families that they depend on their livelihoods. They're expecting that you're making the right decisions. So 2, 3, 4 years from now, your businesses are still around, still growing, still making money. That's what they're expecting you guys to do. So in the hour that I have, what I wanted to do is I want to share with you just a few trends that are going on, just things that are going on in the world, like more economically, here in the US primarily, that you need to know. Because the people that I talk to know this stuff. And more importantly, I'm going to share with you some actions that I would like you to take based on some of these things. So we'll talk about what some of the issues are, but then I'm just going to share. I didn't come up with this myself. I'm not that smart. Just what business owners are doing, right? To like strategies to attack some of these things. Now, it's a relatively small crowd. As I talk, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I have a lot to get in here, but we can always talk about this afterwards if we go off track a little bit. But that won't stop me from asking you guys questions as well. It's early in the morning. I don't know how awake everybody is yet, if everybody had breakfast or coffee. So just to make sure that you guys stay awake and stay alive. Like the questions aren't that hard. Like questions like this, like true or false, New York is the world's most populated city. Is that true, false? It's false. See, that wasn't too hard. Anyone want to guess what the world's most populated city is? Mexico City, Hong Kong, I heard, Seoul, Mumbai. Tokyo is the world's most populated city. 38 million people live in metropolitan Tokyo, twice the size of New York. Mexico City's in there, Mumbai is in there as well, Delhi, Beijing, but Tokyo is the number one. How about this, true or false? Russian is one of the top 5 most spoken languages in the world. Is that true or false? True. True. It is true. It's actually the 5th most spoken language in the world. 277 million people speak Russian around the world. Can anybody guess what the number 1 most spoken language is in the world? Chinese. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys know, there's a lot of Chinese people in the world, okay? I mean, most of them are in China, but then also in different countries. Mandarin, number one language. English, number 2. Number 3, Hindustani is number 3. Ahead of Spanish, followed by, of course, Russian. And I don't know if any of you guys are from New York State, but of course, if you are from New York State, you probably already know this, but let me ask it anyway, okay? True or false? Beginning January 1st of this year, it is now illegal to pose for a selfie with a tiger in New York State. Is that true or false? It's technically, it really depends on how long that shutter speed is. But actually, true or false? True. You were right? You were thinking. It's actually false. This was 2015. It became illegal. So that's my job, is keeping you guys up to date on this stuff, okay? So that you know the things going on. All right. And how about this? True or false? Your health care costs are declining. Okay, obviously false, right? Listen, whatever industry that we're in, whatever business that I talk to, whatever people you're running a business, healthcare, you're trying to attract good people to your business. Biggest issue that we all have is finding good people for our business. The number 1 benefit that is asked for among anybody is healthcare. That's like the right number 1 on the hit parade. And we're all struggling with keeping our healthcare costs under control and making sure that we can provide good benefits while still not going out of business in the meantime. It's an issue that affects all of us. So false healthcare costs are not decreasing. Actually, they're expected to increase quite a lot over the next few years. Now, healthcare costs, this is my colleague at the Post, Amy Goldstein, over the next 3 or 4 years, 35 to 94% in some areas of the country. Now, we're not seeing that anywhere near yet. This is all projecting on some of the your policies of the administration and certain things that are being done. Right now, healthcare costs based on the Kaiser Foundation just released yesterday, expecting next year for businesses to go up between 5 and 8%. Okay, which when it comes to healthcare, we're like, oh my God, this is great. It's only 5 to 8%. Isn't that? Meanwhile, like inflation is like 2%, right? Wages are not going up. So still well ahead of what wages are in inflation, but it is about 5 to 10%, 5 to 8%. Although it's it's expected to be more in the years to come. However, in just a big survey that was released by The Hill just this last week, it's still the number one issue among all of us, okay? Number one that we do. So the big trend that we talk about when we talk about healthcare is what are companies, you look at your P&L, I guarantee you it's one of your top 3 or 4 expenses on your P&L, right? So it is a big, big issue. So the question is, what do you do about it? What are smart business owners doing now to control their healthcare costs over the next few years? Now, I come back and I talk to you guys in a few years, maybe it's a whole bunch of different stuff. But let me share with you just a few things that smart companies are doing now to make sure they keep their healthcare costs under control. And if you're doing some of this stuff, then you're in line. If you're not, this is something that you have to consider. Number one, still, the most popular plans that are out there are the high deductible plans. And hopefully that's what a lot of you guys already have. You've got a high deductible plan already in your place. You're having your employees contribute. The average contribution by an employee is about 25%. So if you're contributing more than that, good for you, okay? But the average company asks their employees to contribute 25% to your health care. It used to be about 16% just a few years ago. Now it's really gone up. So high deductible plans are big, but the bigger trend is healthcare savings accounts. How many people have HSAs in their businesses for their employees? Yeah, not enough. HSAs, healthcare savings accounts, are like 401ks for your healthcare. Very easy to set up, very inexpensive to set up. The HSA accounts themselves, you can put money away pre-tax for your employees. They put money away pre-tax, and then you can pull the money out to pay for those higher deductible and those higher out-of-pocket expenses. I'm telling you, when you're looking to recruit new employees, people are looking for these types of benefits because this is what corporate America is providing right now, and a lot of your competitors as well. Talk to your benefits administrator and get an HSA set up. They've increased in popularity by about 40% over the past 3 years. So high deductible plans and HSAs are big. The other big thing that I'm seeing that employers are doing to control healthcare costs are using things like level funded or hybrid plans. And let me just explain to you what that is. It's this. You say to all your employees, listen, for the first $400 in expenses, you bring the invoice to us, we'll cut you a check, or administrator will cut you a check and reimburse you. After that, anything above that, our group plan then kicks in. So when you have an account like this, like a level funds or a hybrid plan, you're self-insuring at the lowest level. Why does this make sense? Because if you offer health care in your business, and I hope that you do, think about it. If you've got the traditional group plan, you're paying premiums for every single person in your company, whether or not they're using their health care insurance or not. And I know that there is a percentage of people in your company that are not using their health care for whatever. They're healthy, they have a plan with their family, they're doing something else, and yet you're still paying the premium for it. So with a level funded plan, you're only paying for the people that are using it up to a certain amount, and then the group policy kicks in for all the other expenses. It kind of makes more sense, and that's why these have been really, really popular. So think about doing that depending on your demographics. Talk to your benefits administrator. This site right here, they're called Claim Links. They're not, I don't sell for them or anything, but I have a handful of clients that use them. And it explains what these type of hybrid and level funded plans are. My clients that are using these plans are saving anywhere from 12 to 16% of their healthcare costs. So you want to provide these kind of benefits and attract good people. It's a great strategy to have. Number 3. Even if you are not offering health care, remember, people want this as a benefit. You have to have a story to tell. Healthcare reimbursement accounts are now okay. It used to be that if you paid for somebody else's health care, reimbursed them for their health care that they were getting somewhere else, you would be fined for it. Now, as of December of 2016, You can put money away pre-tax into a healthcare reimbursement account for your employees. They can put money away pre-tax themselves, pull it out, buy their healthcare wherever they want to buy it. So you're giving the options up to your employees again. So you might not have a great plan, or you might have no plan at all, but at least you can tell your employees or prospective employees, hey, we've got a healthcare reimbursement account, and we put money away pre-tax. You could put money away pre-tax too, and then use it to pay for your healthcare out of pocket. We're giving all the choices down to our employees. Finally, big thing by the Trump administration this year are association health plans. And they work like this. You can form an association. All of you guys in the same row can get together and form an association if you want. Or you can form an association with other businesses, not even in the industry, but in your geographic area. You want to have 100 employees that are part of this association. Because once you have this buying group of 100 employees, then your health plan will not be subject to the more onerous rules of the Affordable Care Act for plans that have less than 100 employees. And here's what you can do. You've got 100 employees in this group. You go to the healthcare provider, Aetna, Blue Cross, whoever it is, and you say to them, we've got an association, we've got more than 100 employees, let's make a deal. And the healthcare providers, the insurance providers, can come up with plans for you that may exclude certain essential health benefits that the Affordable Care Act, right now requires. Those essential health benefits being excluded, that might not be great for some employees, so make sure you do your homework. But if it fits the demographics of your company, then you can save a lot on healthcare, because they're going to offer you insurance premiums that will be significantly lower because they don't have to provide for all of those benefits. The association health plans, you can't exclude anybody with a pre-existing condition. And you can't charge people different premiums based on their health history. But it's an option. You can add this to your existing health options. It's cheaper for you and cheaper for your employees, so people might be accepting that, and you can lower your costs that way. The biggest issue about association healthcare plans is this, so just be aware. If you have one of these plans in place, this is not law. It is just an executive order, like a Department of Labor ruling from the Trump administration. And we all know what happens to executive orders once a new administration comes around. So if the Trump administration goes away in 2020, and if a new administration isn't crazy about association health plans, they can overturn it in a minute, which means that they're gone. So you want to keep that in mind. It's a short-term kind of thing. There's no guarantee that they're going to continue on in the long term, but it could be an answer for the next couple of years. That's what U.S. businesses are doing this year to control their healthcare costs. Hopefully all of you guys are doing something along those lines, and that way you'll know that you're within usually the popular crowd of what they're doing. Come back to you in a few years, it might be something different. So let's see what we've learned so far about healthcare. True or false? All of Congress is in full agreement on repealing Obamacare. Okay, that's false, right? They can't even agree on what to have for lunch, so that's completely false. True or false? A level-funded plan combines group and self-insurance options. True. Thank you. Right? This is like your hybrid or level-funded plans. You tell your employees, take the first $400 in expenses. We'll pay for them. After that, your group insurance plan kicks in. Talk to your benefits administrator about this. It could save you, again, 12, 15, 16% on your health insurance costs. And true or false, 10% of Americans think that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. No, actually, it's false. It's 7% of Americans think that it comes. Which, by the way, is like 30 million Americans for anybody doing the math. That is kind of scary. And true or false, Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher Randy Johnson once hit a bird in flight while pitching in a game. Yeah, that is true. And you guys haven't seen this before. This is what happened. Is that crazy? So, just to answer some of the obvious questions, it was a non-pitch, okay? It wasn't a ball and it wasn't a strike. That's how it was ruled, okay? It was a dove that was part of the pregame ceremonies, and this poor dove just wanted to hang around, have a beer, watch the big unit pitch a game, switching seats, and look what happens. Just a bad decision to make. More interesting than that, Randy Johnson, you guys, most people remember him, right? The guy was like a lights-out pitcher. This was in 2001. The guy was unbelievable. Won Cy Young Awards, won a World Series. He retired in 2009, first round ballot to the Hall of Fame when he retired in 2009. And Randy Johnson is, I don't know if he was a photography buff, like that was like his hobby. So when he finished with baseball, he opened up a photography business. This is his business card. That is for real, his actual business card, which is weird. Mainly because, yeah, right, if I was a Hall of Fame pitcher, I'd probably have like a baseball on my business card or a glove, but anyway, that's what he wants to be known for. Okay, healthcare costs significantly rising after 2019. HSA's level funded plans getting hotter. Consider association health plans. Let's look at our next trend, which is about our labor. Continue to be tight. Wages are increasing. Anybody know who this guy is? Alexander Acoste. He is the Secretary of Labor under the Trump administration, and he is planning some things that could affect all of us in this room. And let me share with you what some of those things are. Number one is this. First of all, 3.2% salary increases are planned for 2019. So if you're doing your budgets, you've got managers in your place, you've got people that you're thinking of what you're going to be paying them. Based on Korn Ferry, Towers Parent estimates, the average wage increase will be 3.2%, which is still about what inflation is, a little bit over inflation, but still not as much as people would think in this growing economy. But that is what people, what is being expected. New overtime rules are coming in 2019. You guys remember this before? It's a couple years ago. There was the Obama administration. If you've got anybody in your company that's making less than $24,000 a year and they're salaried, so maybe they're like, in the warehouse or their customer service or whatever, you had to pay them for overtime. Okay. The Obama administration a couple years ago said, gee, that's really low. We'd like to increase that. So they came out with a ruling that increased that to $47,000. So essentially saying now, if you have any employees making up to $47,000, again, salaried, not salespeople, but salaried, not supervising anybody, you had to pay them overtime. Well, anyway, some business groups sued the Obama administration. The Obama administration sued the business groups. And then you know what happened in 2016? No more Obama administration, okay? So it's not been like a high priority among the Trump administration until now. So next year, look for this. Secretary Acoste is planning on increasing these overtime rules. He is targeting anywhere from $34,000 to $37,000 in wages, which means if you've got anybody working in your business that's around that wage range, they're not supervising anybody, they're not in sales, and they're making up to say, let's budget $37,000 a year, you would have to pay them overtime. When I mean overtime, if they're answering an email after hours or a text message that you're sending them, that could consider to be overtime. Will the IRS, the Department of Labor, find you? Not necessarily. Will your employees report you when they're not being paid overtime? Yes, that could be very likely. So you have to make sure that you're thinking ahead and you're preparing for that. The EEOC, extremely busy last year, their busiest year ever. This year, look between now and the end of the year, another 150 lawsuits by the EEOC to be filed. You would think, first of all, in these days of the Trump administration, the EEOC would be like almost dormant. But 3 out of 5 of the members of the EEOC are Obama-era appointees. So they're still quite active. Now, can you guys guess like what the biggest issue is on the EEOC's plate? Harvey Weinstein, sexual harassment, right? And discrimination. Both. Any type of harassment and any type of discrimination, that could be for disability, pregnancy, racial, religious. It is high on the EEOC's agenda. And not only that, the EEOC started just this year a new site of their website where your employees can report if they are being harassed or discriminated about. They don't have to go in for an interview in their, in their local office. So therefore, it's much easier for employees to report that stuff in. You got to tighten up your employee handbook this year and make sure you've got procedures about that. When the EEOC files these claims, it's public. They release press releases to your local newspapers. They do it online as well. It is not the kind of publicity that you want to have for your business. So it's an issue for 2019 that you have to make sure that you are addressing. There are creative perks for replacing compensation, most importantly, when it comes to this, paid time off. Paid time off is trending up. right? I mean, right now, there is no national legislation for paid time off. But there is a lot of local administrators. Like in Philadelphia, if you run a business, if you've got more than 10 employees, you're required to give 5 sick days off a year. So a lot of localities are doing stuff with paid time off. But a lot of big companies are doing stuff with this as well. And why? Because the millennial generation that makes up half of the workforce now, these people, when you ask them in study after study, want more flexibility, want more mobility, want more independence. They want the ability to have that kind of benefits with them, and companies are responding in a big, big way. For example, Bank of America. Bank of America gives 16 weeks of paid time off to new parents. So 16 weeks, regardless of their gender. Netflix gives 1 year of paid time off to new parents as well, again, regardless of gender. Now, Netflix, of course, makes more sense because there's a lot of things that you can be doing with that year off, right? And a lot of TV to catch up on. By the way, and can I just take an aside? If you haven't seen Ozark yet, it is fantastic. You absolutely have to watch both seasons, and Mindhunter as well. Anyway, you can see, you work at Netflix, you have a lot to do with when you're taking your paid time off. So that makes a little bit more sense. Salesforce.com. They're the big CRN company. They offer 6 days of paid volunteer time off for all of their employees, as well as $1,000 a year that donates to the charity of their choice. Now, why are they doing this? It's not just the paid time off trend, but the majority of workers, again, that fall in that millennial generation, say in study after study they want to work for companies that are socially conscious or that are giving something back. So companies like Salesforce are doing that. I'm not saying you give 6 days off a year for volunteer time, but to do something like a half a day or a day off to contribute $50 or $100 to a charity of an employee's choice, this attracts good employees. And this is what current employees are asking for as well. Hilton Hotel, and keep my voice down because this is a Marriott and I don't want them to hear me outside, because at Hilton they give 10 weeks of paid time off to their hourly workers, right? These are like the people servicing the rooms and working in the kitchens. They get 10 weeks for hourly people, okay? So my favorite is CarMax, of course. At CarMax, they give time off, they mutually agree on what their time off is going to be. The supervisors and their employees get together and they say, you know what, how much time off should you have next year? Like, I've got the sniffles and a bit of a cold. I'm thinking like 4 months. Is that okay? Just air out my head. So we're all good with that 4 months that I can take. Anyway, that's what CarMax's policy is. And that's not even the worst of it. LinkedIn, unlimited days off. Unlimited days off. Now, I just a show of hands. How many people here are giving unlimited days off to? Okay, that's what I thought. There's a reason now. Do you actually offer that in your company? Just to you? That to me makes sense as a policy. It makes sense. But I have to tell you, there is a reason why you guys don't give this. Believe it or not, it's more obvious than you think. I've actually been doing research in this. I'm writing a little something on this now. And I'm saying, what is it, about this, time off and limited time off? Is this a good thing? Is this not a good thing? Well, it turns out that these companies, these tech companies and other growth companies that are offering unlimited time off, their employees are more unhappy than if they just had a use it or lose it policy. They are actually finding themselves taking less time off when unlimited time off policies are made available to them. Less time off. So they're actually more unhappy about that. And the reason why is, I guess it's just human nature, right? I mean, if you say somebody they got 2 weeks off a year, use it or lose it, everybody knows that. We're going to use it. We're going to lose it. I'm going to make sure I take it. You talk about it with your friends. What am I going to do? Should I take it? Whatever. That's what it is. If it's unlimited, it's like it becomes a secret. And then you have one person, LinkedIn's a pretty stressful environment to work in. You got one person that's working, 60-hour weeks, and then you have another person in the cubicle next to him that's, taking 4 months off for the sniffles. And who's going to be getting that promotion at the end of the year? So when you're leaving that choice up to the employees, they're having a hard time dealing with that, and it's making them more unhappy. You don't want unhappy employees, which is exactly the reason why you're not offering unlimited paid time off. You care about your people. That's what it comes down to. So the next time that you're interviewing that millennial kid and he's sitting across from you and he's like, hey man, why don't you offer unlimited paid time off like some of these other companies do? You cross your arms and look them in the eye and you say to them, we don't offer unlimited paid time off because we care about you. That's what you say to him. That's 2 weeks. Get the hell out of my office. And then you end the conversation. So that's unlimited paid time off. It's an option that's out there, but it's becoming less and less. The most popular option for paid time off is just where you let your employees, you give them a certain amount of days, and then they can just use it however they want to use it. So it's, it used to be where you would break out vacation time and sick time. Now it's just like you get 10 days off a year. I don't want to know anymore. Some companies, believe it or not, are offering days off, or at least 1 day off a year or 2 days off a year for what they call unsick days. And unsick, I'm not saying that you should do this, I'm just saying this is what some companies do. They say to their employees, take a day off. Your only requirement is you have to go to the doctor's office to get a checkup, or to the dentist's office for a checkup as well, and bring us back evidence that you do that, and we will pay for that day off. The idea being everybody's busy, we don't have time to do that kind of stuff, and because of that it impacts our health, which impacts productivity, which impacts health insurance costs as well. So some companies are offering that as well. I will tell you this much though, I know you guys are from all over the place, but I have a listing of this, of all the people that are attending here. I will come and I will find you if I hear any rumor at all that you are offering days off for paternity, because this is going way too far. This is time off for when they have a new puppy, right? The companies are giving them this is why this country is going to hell, is like policies like this, okay? We draw a line at paternity, no paternity allowed here. Okay, so there's no national legislation for paid time off. There are some local requirements. A lot of big companies are doing different things. The president supports national paid time off. I mean, the guy's no dummy. He ran a 30,000 employee company. He knows this is a big requested benefit. So in his last budget proposal, this inspired by his daughter Ivanka, 6 weeks of paid time off is what the president wanted to see this year. Of course, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, they were like, not so fast. We got kind of a big budget deficit to worry about. But okay. But anyway, so the president's behind this. Now, one thing to just leave you with as well when it comes to paid time off, if you are an employer with more than 50 employees, you know that you're subject to that Family Medical Leave Act. You know, people have to take, it's unpaid leave, but if they have the leave, they keep their job, and you got to keep their benefits in place. Well, 2017 tax reform now, it will actually give you a tax credit if you do this. So if you pay at least 50% of the wages of the employee going out, then you can get a 12.5% to 25% credit back on your taxes for those wages paid. So it's an incentive by the government to say, hey, you go out there and try and pay for some of this time off, and we'll give you some help on it when it comes to your taxes. Okay, so true or false? Wages are expected to rise 1% in 2018. False, right? 3.2% is what they're going up. So if you're doing your budgeting, you're thinking ahead, because that's what all the people I know, the smart business owners, are looking ahead to next year. They are budgeting about a 3% rise in wages. True or false? Student loan debt is not a significant issue among millennials. Okay, false. It is a significant issue among millennials. And the reason why I bring that up is because student loan debt is another great benefit that innovative companies are providing, helping them to repay their student loan debt. It's another option to consider when we're talking about the different benefits and things that millennials like. And true or false, Trump supports national paid time off legislation. It is true, okay? 6 weeks paid time off. Didn't get through in this last budget round, but it might be coming back up again when he submits his budget for next year. True or false, finally, you can make a great ponytail for your daughter by using a vacuum cleaner. Notice it, right? It is true, actually. This is how it's done. It's genius, don't you think? Isn't that fantastic? Now, I just have to bring a couple things to your attention. Number one is, if you notice, it's the dad who's doing this because no mom in her right mind would use a vacuum cleaner to make a ponytail. The guy's like using an oven as a mirror in the kitchen. The kitchen's a mess as well. Clearly mom is not around. Anyway, so dads, so you know, you can do this. Moms, you probably already know this, but you would never do this ever in your lifetime. Okay, so healthcare costs going up. We talked about a few strategies. It's a very, very big trend over the next year that affects your business. Find and recruit people. Be aware of rising wages, new overtime rules. Creative perks like tuition reimbursement, competitive paid time off, and double check your discrimination policies. Again, the EEOC is busy and it's not like they've got the resources to do it all, but your employees can be reporting you much, much easier. It is not the kind of press that you want. That is a big trend this year. All right, and what I mentioned, a really good use of a vacuum cleaner, just to make sure that we're clear. This is not a good use for a vacuum cleaner. It's just a bad. Yeah, okay, right. This is the same guy. That's probably the mom that left the guy. You know what I mean, right? And now he's left with the vacuum cleaner making the ponytail. That's all he's got left now. Okay, trend number 3. You may not be taking full advantage of all the ways to reduce your taxes. So let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, taxes, when we talk about tax reform, big news obviously this year. Passed at the end of 2017. Paul Ryan, right? This is one of the most important pieces of legislation that Congress has passed. It's going to be influential, a profound change on American society. President Trump, companies are coming back to the U.S. You know, he said that back in December. Mitch McConnell, very excited. Lower tax is going to help small businesses, that's us, create jobs and spur economic growth. That's been the talk in D.C. Everybody's talking about tax reform. They're still talking about tax reform now. Just, you know, again, grain of salt, sometimes things are said in D.C. that aren't necessarily true, so you have to, like, you know, just put things into context and all that, and, you know, just kind of decipher it for what you think is really true and not true. But okay, let's talk about tax reform. Now, just so you guys know, I am a CPA. I don't do taxes anymore. For me, like, if it's close enough, it's good enough, and that's not the way you want to be if you're a CPA. You know, right? You don't want to hire me to do it until you'll go to jail. Okay, but I keep up on this stuff, right? You know, because the stuff I write about, we talk about it with clients. Let's just give a recap, right, of what we are. First of all, there's 7 new brackets with tax reform this year, right? So this goes until 2026. This is like for married filing jointly. Anybody between $75,000 and $250,000, your tax rates are going down. And I'm going to assume that a lot of people in this room fall into that category. You're going to see a decrease in your individual tax rate for 2018. So think about that. I'm going to talk about meeting with your accountant in a minute, but corporate rates as well. If you are a C corporation, a regular corporation in your business, your rate, which was once 35%, one of the highest in the Western world, is now down to 21%, one of the lowest in the Western world. If you happen to have a few $billion parked overseas, like Apple and Microsoft and GE, feel free to bring that money back. There is a one-time repatriation rate of only 15.5%. And just bear in mind, in the first quarter of 2018, more than $500 billion was brought back to this country from overseas to take advantage of this tax rate. Small business, the tax deduction for the pass-through rate. I'm telling you right now, there's questions about what business owners can take advantage of it and can't take advantage of it. And I'll tell you right now, I think most everybody in this room will be able to take full advantage of the pass-through deduction. It is a 20% reduction if you have like an S corporation or a partnership, right? If you have pass-through. So when the money comes down onto your individual return, whatever you made in your business, now instead of $100 that you made coming onto your individual return, $80 will come down on your return and then be taxed at a lower rate. So it's a big deal. So if you're a pass-through organization, it could be a significant benefit from you. The standard deduction has doubled. It used to be 6,000 individual. It's now about 12,000. It used to be $12,000 for married filing jointly. Now it's $24,000. No more personal exemption, but the government estimates 30 million more people will be just taking the standard deduction this year than before. I mean, we're not going to be doing our taxes on the back of a postcard, okay? Whatever the government says, that's like a political thing. Right, that's not going to happen. But it does make it a lot easier for us with this big standard deduction. There are some surviving itemized deductions as well. Some big ones. For example, if you decide to itemize, your medical expense deduction went up. It used to be in the expenses over 10% of your adjusted gross income. Now it's medical expenses over 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. The charitable deduction is still there. The interest deduction still there up to $750,000 mortgages. The child care credit doubled this year. So it was once $1,000 per child. Now it's $2,000 for any kid up to the age of 13 if you're paying for child care. And by the way, you and the spouse can be making up to $400,000 a year, and you're still eligible for that child care credit. So that's also there as well. Unfortunately, state and local taxes for states like New Jersey, New York, California, that's now been limited up to $10,000 deduction. But finally, estate taxes. If when you die, your estate worth millions is going to be passed down and taxed at 40% rate is what the rate is, which is really, really high. Well, there's a new exemption now. So if you're married filing jointly, it goes up to $22 million of your assets are exempt. So essentially, it didn't repeal the estate tax deduction, but it certainly limits it a lot for most people, okay? So just letting you know that the big thing is that does expire in 2026, which is only 8 years away. Smart business owners, always doing a little tax planning, you know what I mean? Thinking ahead, it's a big tax bill. Just want to throw that option out to you. You want to keep it in mind for the estate tax. Depends on how much you love your families. Okay, so the big question is this. It's 2018. It's October right now. We're getting into it, okay? This is right. So you still got time. You've got 3 months before the end of the year. You can do stuff now. The first thing you have to do when you're finished with this conference, you got to go home, got to meet with your accountant, okay? It's the first thing you got to do, all right? So, and the accountant itself, here's what I realize you're meeting with this guy, you want to keep the meeting to a minimal amount of time. I get that, okay? So let me help you out, okay? I'm going to offer you some things that you want to bring up to your accountant to make sure that they are being addressed. Here is what you want to ask your accountant. Number one is this, and we're having all of our clients do this, and you would be surprised. If you're like a regular corporation, have your accountant sit down and say, listen, do my taxes now. Because they can. I mean, come on, you can figure out what 2018 is. We're in October already, all right? Do my taxes now and see what my tax bill is compared to last year. Make sure that whatever estimated payments you're paying in, you could be paying in a lot too much, right? So stop that, all right? And there's time to catch that now before you make your last estimated payment. But here's what I'd like you to do. If you're a regular corporation or an S corporation, have them run through that numbers. That's fine. Just your estimated payments. More importantly, tell your accountant this, just for grins, just for you-know-what and giggles, okay? Run through the same numbers and pretend that I've changed my entity. Pretend I'm not a C corporation anymore, I'm a pass-through. Or pretend I'm not a pass-through anymore, I'm a C corporation. It's a spreadsheet exercise. This is not hard, okay? You might be surprised by what you find. Your accountant goes through those numbers again and says, whoa, if you were to switch tax entities, you could be saving a boatload of taxes, depending on your own personal situation. You want to know that now. It won't affect 2018, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's a kind of a pain, but you've got time before the end of the year if you do decide to change entities, so you're ready to rock and roll when January 1st comes around. Have that discussion with your accountant, have them run those numbers. Not too hard to do. We're telling that to do that to all of our clients. A few other things. Invest in capital equipment if you have any type of equipment that you have in your place. If you have like a warehouse kind of, you got forklifts, pallets, any equipment that you have that's for machines that are running, whatever. You have to have $1 million deduction for any equipment that you buy. And by the way, if you are looking to buy equipment, don't pay for the equipment. I mean, put a down payment down, finance it while interest rates are still relatively low, and as soon as you put it into service, boom, you can take the full tax deduction for the full purchase price. So you don't necessarily have to pay the cash for it now to take full advantage of that. Writing off, yes. Yes. if you invest in capital, you like that, don't you, right? So you want to make sure that your customers are aware of that as well, right? It's just one of, this is, yeah, and remember, have a good banker by your side when you do that, because they'll be happy. Sure, we'll do all the financing for you as well. Accounts receivable and inventory. I look around this room. I see a lot of people here. We're all business owners, right? We come from different backgrounds, different religions, different races, different countries. I get that, okay? But we're all business owners. And let me tell you something. We all of us, have this one thing in common. One year, hopefully many years from now, we will all be sitting in a wheelchair in a nursing home. And we will not be able to remember what we had for breakfast that morning. But we will be able to rattle off the names of every deadbeat who stiffed us during the course of our business lives, right? Like this, it's again like DNA. It's ingrained in here, right? We won't know, but we'll be like, yeah, remember? It was Rob Johnson from Johnson Controls. It was 1984. That guy started paying us. It was like $5,000 he owed us. He said, I don't understand. Yeah, but why? Because we're glass is half full people. We have this crazy notion that when you buy something, you pay for it, right? What kind of a concept is that? So, but some people don't seem to like buy into that. And I know this much. I can go and look at any one of your agings, and I guarantee you this. There is likely invoices on there that have been there for 90 days, 120 days. I know you, 150 days. And you'll be like, oh, this is a nice guy. Oh, I knew this guy since high school. I just saw her last week. She said she's going to pay. It's like, they're not going to pay. Okay, they're going to stiff you. They're deadbeats, right? It's been outstanding this long. These people are not going to pay you. Maybe, listen, you take the money, you take it off your aging, you put it on a spreadsheet, okay? So, because who knows? Maybe God will smile on you and money will come raining down from heaven. Probably not, but okay, that's fine. Write off your receivables, though. You have got tax deductions on your aging right now that you're missing because they're just sitting there and you're not doing anything with them and nobody is paying you. Write them off. The same with inventory. I also know you guys. If I walked around any of your places, I know what it is. I'm going to be walking around and I'm going to be seeing stuff there and you're going to be like, oh, I got this at an auction like 8 years ago. It was an incredible steal. You won't believe what I paid for it. It's a great deal. Or like a competitor of mine went out of business and we picked this baby up and this is like, oh, I couldn't believe when I saw this. Meanwhile, it's been there for like 8 years collecting dust. People are tripping over it. There's like a family of mice nesting behind it. You're not going to sell it. It was a crappy deal, okay? You made a mistake. You shouldn't have bought it in the first place. You do these things, all right? I mean, you're in business now. We all make mistakes. You've made more good decisions than bad, but get rid of it. Write it off. The message being, clean up your balance sheet now before the end of the year. You have deductions there that you can take. Do that. Employ your children. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to put your 6-year-old behind the phones whenever I say children, okay? Your middle school kids, high school kids, get them to work in your office. That $12,000 standard deduction that you can take, that's like, you can pay them up to $12,000 a year as long as they don't have any other income. They don't pay any taxes. You get a full deduction for it as well. So employ your children. It's been a big popular thing to do. Open a 529 plan or offer it to your employees, a 529 plan. Very easy to set these things up. You put money away after tax. It's not pre-tax, but it grows tax-free. And then you can take it out without any penalties as long as you pay for higher education. With tax reform this year, a new thing, you can take the money out and use it for private school tuition or religious school tuition. So if you got like young kids, or your employees have young kids and you want to contribute or they can contribute, like, oh, when they hit middle school or high school, we're going to be sending them to the local, whatever private school. They can grow tax-free all the time and then use that money for their tuition. And finally, reconcile it with your spouse. I mean, alimony becomes non-deductible next year. I mean, I don't know, you had it going on at some point, didn't you? Remember back in college, it was a thing like, right, split a bottle of wine, maybe something can be worked out. It's very expensive once you have to pay taxes on your alimony. Okay, here's a few credits to keep in mind as well, okay? The work opportunity tax credit. You're competing with somebody down the street for an employee. Well, I tell you something, here's some help for you. If that person is long-term unemployed or a vet or on welfare and a number of other different things, you can get up to a $9,600 credit on the taxes that you pay just for hiring somebody like that. It's called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. And oh, by the way, if you did this in the past couple of years, go back and run through the numbers, or have your accountant do it, go back and amend your return and get money back on the taxes that you paid. The differential wage credit, you can get a $4,000 credit for if you're paying somebody on active military reserve and you're paying them more than what they're making from the military, you get a credit for that differential. And finally, if you don't have a 401k plan, and everybody should have a 401k plan for God's sake, it's $500 credit for the next 3 years if you have less than 100 employees to set up a 401k plan for your employees. It's really good stuff. This is all stuff that you want to be talking about with your accountant. So, true or false, the current corporate tax rate is 98%. Okay, no, it's false. This is not 1970s England, sir, okay? No, it is 90. It is not. The current corporate tax rate, 21%, down from 35%. True or false? Tax reform will eliminate the mortgage deduction. That is false, right? The real estate industry, we're in Jersey, it's like the Sopranos, okay? You don't want to be messing with these guys at all. They kept that mortgage deduction. That was never going to go away, all right? And true or false, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants provides accommodation for its homeless members. True or false? It's false. They live in tax shelters. See, it's a tax joke. We're talking taxes, so I thought I'd sneak in the, right? Because, right? Got you, right? I'll use that again. All right, so here's what we learned. Healthcare costs significantly rising, finding and retaining great people, blah, blah, blah. Tax reform will have a big impact for you and your business. Meet with your accountant now to take full advantage. In the final 10 minutes that I have, let me share with you just a few I do whole separate sessions on taxes and a separate session on technology, separate sessions on people. So this is like the highlights. I just picked out 3 that I think you guys need to know about, only because this is what companies are investing in this year. There's a lot of ones that are out there, okay? So, but these are 3 like really hot ones. So the first one is this. Customer relationship management applications, $23 billion market, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, Zoho, anybody that touches your business, whether you're in retail, whether you're in wholesale, whether you're B2C, B2B, I mean, they should all be going into a CRM database. Easier than it sounds, because it's right. There's a lot of challenges to doing this. But let me tell you something. What I'm seeing over the past few years with these things, if you have a CRM database and you guys are using it well, first of all, nothing falls through the cracks. Customers that had an interest now, you're checking back with them on their families, their friends, their whatever. I mean, it's a lead generator, way to keep in touch with people. Everybody's on the same page. Any customer, they visit your place 6 months later, oh yeah, I see you visited. Hi, Mr. Smith. That's good. I see are you still a Mets fan? I'm sorry to hear about that. Whatever you're tracking in the database is all there that you can do that. But here's the thing with these systems I'm saying. Companies that have CRM databases, when they look to sell or bring on a partner or otherwise exit from the business, they're getting more money because people are paying for these databases. It's like a big data world. So think about it. If I were to go into, I wanted to buy your business, and I said, you're like, hey, this is what we've got. This is our location. Here's the inventory that we have. Here's our employees. We've got a great name in the community and whatever. I'm like, okay, that's all good. That's good. That's good. And then you're like, and I've got the CRM database. And in it is every customer we've sold to, anybody that's walked into this place, anybody that we've contact with, what they're interested in, what they bought, what they're in, what our follow-up is with them, all notes about them. I'll pay extra for that. Right? And people are. It's an intangible database. It increases the value of your business. So think about that if you're trying to implement these things. Number 2, HR platforms. These have been exploding this past year. An HR platform, I listed 3, Paychex, Bamboo, Gusto, namely Zenefits is another one that's out there. There's a bunch of great ones out there. Here's what they do. If you've got more than 5 employees, you want to consider investing in one of these. Why? Because everybody gets a mobile app on their device with these things. They automatically integrate with your payroll system. I don't care what it is. They integrate with it. And your employees, and by the way, the younger people who like to be working for companies that are somewhat technologically, there, they can check on their payroll right from their phones. They can put in for time off. They can put in for sick days and vacation as well. You can manage their performance reviews on these things as well, and we all do such a great job with performance reviews, right? That way people don't forget, you get reminders, people can contribute to them if they're part of the group. The employees can put in their contact information. It saves, if you've got like an HR person in your business or whatever, it cuts their time in half. Because you're asking these people, the employees, all the requests and things that they have, they're just doing it themselves. And if it has to come through for approval, there's workflows to set up to do that. These things are really incredible applications, and they're relatively inexpensive. So HR platforms is really big. Finally, security. Ransomware is more than $1 billion business this year, right? So ransomware, I had a client just a month ago got attacked by ransomware, all of their computers locked up, big red screen saying we have encrypted all of your files, you can't get at them unless you give us $100 in Bitcoin, it said, and then we will give you an unencryption key. And my client literally, on the screen, there was a toll-free number to call. This is not a made-up story. The customer service department of the hacker actually provided a toll-free number. And my client called, this is true, my client called this number, and the person on the other phone, who my client said was extremely nice, walked them through how to get the Bitcoin, how to pay for it, how to get the encryption fee, and how to unlock the device. She said it was just a great, she gave these people 5 stars on Yelp. She was so impressed with their service. And unfortunately, she tried calling him back like 3 days later, and the line was disconnected. Yeah, what do you expect, right? You know, so she's people nowadays. But anyway, that's how big a business this is. It is $1 billion business. Now, you really can't protect yourself against it. You can't do that much. You get training, you can have the security software. The biggest thing you can do internally is upgrade your Windows computers. I mean, most of us use Windows, okay? And I don't work for Microsoft, but I'm telling you, these hackers, man, they got bots running all over the place looking for vulnerabilities in networks. So if you're still running Windows 95, I know, right? They're going to find that machine, and that's how they get into your network, right? If you run Windows 10, the most recent versions, it's not guaranteed, but it's as up to date as you're going to get with the most recent security. So you really want to make an effort to do that. The final thing to do, though, get an online backup software like Carbonite. Carbonite it's a couple $100 a year. It's backing up everything behind the scenes, both in-house and on the cloud. And then if you do get hit by a ransomware attack, you just wipe everything out, restore from your last good backup. You might lose a few hours of work or even a day of work, but you don't want to be giving these guys money, okay? I mean, this is like, you don't want to pay Yuri in Ukraine, wherever they're from, right? Because we're going to have all of Yuri's nephews, nieces, friends, and family will be attacking you within the next few weeks as well, asking for their $100 in Bitcoin. So you want to avoid that. And having an online backup system has been a huge solution for a lot of companies. So lots of different technology, but these are 3 real hot ones that I think would really have an impact on your business. All right, so let's wrap things up. True or false? A CRM can add value to your business. True, right? Like an intangible value. People will pay extra for that database. True or false? Carbonite is a radioactive element from Superman's home planet. Okay, that's false. It's kryptonite, right? Yeah, it's kryptonite is what it is, right? Okay. And true or false? Jane Jetson was a teen mom. Now, okay, you know what? Don't even answer this question. I get this question every single time I speak, and I just want to put it to bed now. It's simple math. It's absolutely true. She was a teen mom. If you go through the numbers on the show, she was 32 years old. Daughter Judy was 16 years old. You do it. 32 minus 16 equals 16 years old. Jane Jetson, completely a teen mom. Don't email me about this. Don't text me about this. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. That issue has been resolved. Final. Okay? All right. And true or false? This plumber's truck is the best advertising ever. That is true. And fine, true or false? According to a recent study in the Journal of Microbiology, 80% of fast food drink dispensers contain fecal matter. Calm down, it's false. It's only 50%, okay? People they get upset because they hear 80%, and that's not really the case. All right, so let's recap this. Healthcare costs significantly going up. What, it's your top 5, 3 of expenses? I'm telling you, stick with that high deductible plan. Get an HSA. Consider a level funded or a hybrid plan. Consider an association plan. This is what people are doing to control this giant expense. Number 2, Find and retain great people. Consider that salaries are going up 3%. Overtime rules are going up. You got to stay competitive with that. Paid time off and other creative benefits like tuition reimbursement, really big. Double check your discrimination policies. Tax reform, it's only 30% of what you make. It's kind of a big deal, right? Meet with your accountant now. Implement some of the changes that I suggested, investing in capital equipment. Tell your customers to buy capital equipment if that's what you do. Hire your kids as well. The work opportunity tax credit. CRM, security, HR platforms. They're just 3 really great technologies that I'm seeing everybody using and investing in. You should be doing that as well if you want to stay ahead of the game. Remember what I said at the beginning. Great leaders are always looking ahead, okay? They're done with 2018, and many of them are pretty done with 2019. You want to look at some of these trends that are going on around you, and you want to make some of these decisions and implement some of these strategies. I'm telling you, it will keep you ahead of the competition if you do that, so that you're around 3 or 4 years ago. Remember, when I'm done this presentation, we're going to be talking about tariffs, which is a whole other presentation and how it affects this industry as well. So that's another thing that you're going to have to considering in the impact on your business. So, true or false, you are much smarter than you were a mere 75 minutes ago. Yeah, that is true. Everybody, thank you. If you want to email me with any questions, feel free. If you'd like a copy of this, I'm leaving this with here at Susan, but by all means, I'm happy to email you a PDF of this PowerPoint as well. So enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Hand this here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was great.
Thanks.
Philly guy comes up big.